right field. She is gone. In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened. This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, home run. Mattingly. Taco makes one. Deep left field. Down the line. That ball is out of here. Out of here.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Tablesetters covering all things Major League Baseball. As always, I'm Steve, joined by my tag partner, Devin. What's going on, man?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Right off the bat, I want to start the show shouting out a great performance tonight. I think about this sometimes during the season. Steve and I, we record a lot while there are games going on or while games just finished. And sometimes we don't get to call out certain performances that happen while we record. And if you listen the next morning, you might be like, how did they not talk about this? So right off the bat, Shota Imanaga, who I'm unfortunately playing against in fantasy baseball, 26 swings and misses in tonight's start against the Philadelphia Phillies, which is I believe, the highest mark as far as swings and misses goes this season by any pitcher. Obviously, the season very, very young still, but really impressive performance. I got to watch quite a bit of it. And my guy, who I do have on my fantasy team, Jesus Luzardo, got absolutely shelled by the Chicago offense. So that's a good one for Chicago, who obviously the Cubs have not come out the way they wanted to, but they looked really good tonight. And they have the Mets coming to town, who we'll see what they do tonight. We're going to talk a lot about them at the top of the show here, but the Cubs might get on a little bit of roll after that game. But yeah, shout out to Shota Imanaga, just very, very quick.
Yeah, it's a good spot to open up and leave where the bookmark was from last week, talking about the injury to Cade Horton, hoping that Chicago can get a lot out of Shota, and hopefully he would be emerging as their ace and is off to a good start at this point, looking for him to really build on what was a down year last year and going back to Chicago and became a fan favorite. So hopefully he can be at the top of the rotation. And you mentioned we're going to be talking about the Mets. We're going to be talking about all the things in baseball. Since we last joined you, there's been a lot of emerging changes, and we had the poll on Twitter, and you can follow us at Tablesetters Pod on X. Devin running that machine over there and doing a lot of great work, and been increasing our follower count, a lot of daily drops and those reels he's been doing a good job with. So stay tuned to those things with the daily matchups and the probables and all the things happening with the numbers against the pitchers there. You posted a poll on there, and usually we have a section for it, but I don't think it warrants a full conversation of when it is officially not early anymore. And I still feel like it's early. You mentioned before we're in the early part of the season, but as the weather gets warmer, I couldn't help but feeling it as I was, leaving the car from work and all that stuff. I felt a little bit like, oh, this is starting to get serious with the games on the line, and we're getting into the routine of baseball with a game every single day.
Yeah, and I you know what, I thought about that as well. I think the answer to that actually that question actually is not like a concrete date as far as when you can no longer say it's early anymore. I think it depends on what you're talking about. I think each situation is different. Like if you ask me, is it still too early to buy into Jordan Walker? I'd say no. I don't think it's early anymore. I think it's legit. I just maybe in 2 weeks' time I'm going to look like an idiot. In 2 months' time I'm going to look like an idiot. But I don't think it's too early to do that. But like if we said, is it too early to panic about Garrett Crochet? I'd say yeah, it's too early to panic about that. He'll probably be fine. But I think it kind of depends on who or what or which team you're talking about.
Yeah, that baseball savant page for Jordan Walker is just off the charts right now, looking at all the big red bars and stuff right now. And it's cool to see. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff, and obviously the Yankees have the Angels coming into town, and there's been a lot of conversation in my Yankee sub chats of talking about, yes, we want the Yankees to win games, and we saw them win today with Caballero's walk-off, but you can't help but feel good when Mike Trout is playing good ball and watching him launch. Dude. And him and Judge having that swing off the other night. It's fun to see. And as a baseball fan, it just warms my heart to have Mike Trout playing ball. And it just makes me wish for him to be playing in October somewhere down the line.
Yeah. And just quick, it wasn't on the show rundown here, but like, I feel like last year, if one of us, or if you brought up like, oh, I just wish Trout would be traded, I would say like, I think that's dead because he's just not like playing well enough anymore. It seems like he's clearly in his decline phase. He's getting hurt constantly. If he keeps this up, maybe those talks, at least among people like us, maybe not legit front office, but maybe those talks are revived of like, hey, I think Trout could be a trade piece again. Obviously, a lot of money to take off their hands and still some years on that. But I guess baseball fans can dream. But right now, I'll just even on the Angels, I'll take it. Like it's been fun watching like him along with Joe Adell, who is making last year look like it was not a fluke. He looks like that kind of hitter, and obviously the incredible fielding he had on that one game as well. But that's honestly not what he's really known for. He's known for his bat more. And Jorge Soler, who got his suspension reduced slightly to 4 games, has been knocking the crap out of the ball. Obviously, Zach Neto, I think a lot of baseball fans absolutely love that guy. So, like, there's talent there. Reed Detmers looked really good against the Yanks the other night. Like, pitching-wise, they have a couple things to hang their hat on. Jose Soriano has been the best pitcher in the league, like, literally the best pitcher in the league. I don't know. So maybe there's a little bit of hope for the Angels compared to some of the other years.
Absolutely. And they're a team to watch for sure. And it's interesting as a baseball fan, as we know, it's a very local sport. So you really get to know teams, even though we watch the league at large and we're watching clips and keeping in touch with the box scores and finding fantasy baseball nuggets of information. When you have a team come in for a 3 or 4 game set, that's when you really get to know them. And I feel like very immersed in this Angels team now that I saw them in for 3 in the Bronx. And I'm sure you feel the same way with the Dodgers.
Yeah, enough of that. But what's your feel? I got to say, because I've tuned into Angels Yankees, but I'm sure I'm not watching it as closely as you are. So after that set, like, what do you still feel like same old Angels, or did you come away feeling different about them?
I feel pretty much like same old Angels. I hate to say that, and I just think this is more indicative of how the Yankees are playing. I'm not. And it's funny because you posted that reel about us talking about the Yankees being the most legit. I'm certainly not sitting here changing my tune on it. But it's funny how things change. Because I think, as I said, probably can be quoted from last week's episode saying things couldn't have gone any better. And since that point, the Yankees have struggled, of course, getting the win at this point. But the offense seems like someone unplugged the electricity for them. And some of the guys that were hitting at a big clip, they're not able to get the hits. And some of those dudes that have struggled in the beginning, you expected to get going. The Jazz Chisholms of the world and Ryan McMahon, things have not really lit up. And you want to add to the bucket of when it's still not early anymore. When you start to slump, not be able to hit like a guy like Randall Grichuk, not a big piece of the Yankees, but when you don't have a hit at this point, it starts to feel like it's not early anymore. And for the Yanks, they'll be okay. But it's funny how things change in a week where you just have the Yanks could do no wrong. They weren't giving up any runs. Their bullpen was untouchable. And since we last recorded, a lot of things have shifted and they'll be fine. That is sort of the aggregate that has baseball, but it's an emotional roller coaster, as everybody knows.
Yeah, baseball's so unique where, like, even though it's such a long season, like any hardcore baseball fan can absolutely crash out after a couple bad losses, even though it's like there's a million games left. That's just kind of the sport we love. But just a quick before we get to our opening, a shout out. I took a little trip with my family, mostly centered around kids type of places, mostly in Pennsylvania over the weekend, the end of spring break. But they did throw me a bone, and they all came with me to a Double-A baseball game, the Reading Fighting Phils. And obviously, as a Met fan, not a big Philly guy here, but I will shout them out, man. Really cool ballpark experience. I highly suggest checking it out if you're ever in the area. Really cool place. Minor league baseball is the best. It's such a cool experience to go to. And I missed a Zach Wheeler rehab start by about 3 or 4 days. But I got to see Aaron Escobar and some other guys that are worthy of a follow, and maybe we'll see some of those guys in the bigs in a year or two's time. But yeah, just shout out to the Reading Fighting Phils. It was a great experience as they played the Hartford Yard Goats, Colorado Rockies affiliate. I mean, Hartford, Colorado. Sometimes these places are crazy far away as far as the affiliates for major league teams.
Yeah, and there's a decent amount of love for the Hartford Yard Goats out in Hartford, obviously losing the Whalers and don't have a local team anymore. There's been an affinity for that market over there. And yeah, you're right. Minor league baseball, anytime you're in town, you just want to be able to check it out. I always, first thing to do when I have a trip planned anywhere, whether it be work or leisure in any capacity, I'm always looking at sports of all different ilks, whether it be the NBA or the NFL or MLB or minor league sports, is something home. I want to be able to find a sport. And minor league baseball is such an easy go. And I'm sure it was very affordable to bring the family over there. You guys get to spend the day in the sun, and the weather's finally warming up in the Northeast. So what better way than watching some baseball with some young stars out there?
The ticket's very affordable. We paid $13 a ticket, and I mean, there's no bad seat there. But I will say the team stores are not cheap, even in minor league baseball. Both of my kids, 2 and 5 years old, wanted a Philly Fanatic stuffed animal. Thank God they were overpriced because I don't think I could deal with having 2 of those things in my house. So they have this crazy, I think they call him the crazy hot dog vendor, who comes out in between innings at one point of the game. He's riding like a fake ostrich running around, and he literally throws just hot dogs, no bun, that are wrapped up into the crowd. And it's a big thing. And they even have a hat that they wear sometimes that has the crazy hot dog vendor on the hat as the logo. And at some point this year, they're going to be the Reading iced coffees. That's another one of their alternate identities, which is also an amazing thing in minor league baseball. But anyway, my 5-year-old ended up coming home with like a stuffed animal of the crazy hot dog vendor. And my 2-year-old got a Fightin' Phil's foam finger. So like, I still don't love walking around the house seeing something that says "Go Phils," but I think I'll take that over the fanatic staring me in the face every day.
Well, once you guys have the bonfire going in the backyard just later this summer, you have the first thing to go in there. That styrofoam going to burn as a good, fire starter.
Oh, look, it slipped out of my hands.
Exactly. But what a good transition here. Let's hit the organ and get to our opening say. All right. So as we record, the Mets are about to take the field again in about 10 minutes. And as we are talking, they are the losers of 7 straight. And there's been some circles of Met fans that are panicking. What do you know? It's New York sports, and baseball fans, like you said, crashing out is a good term to use. I mean, we've been watching the offense completely break down. The frustrations coming from how obvious the issues are versus how they're being publicly framed. And a lot of the conversation goes towards, and I heard Evan Roberts on WFAN talking about the Steve Cohen tweet. And I'll let you get into all that, but just some of the numbers to frame it first. In this 7-game straight losing streak, outscored 36-10, a team batting average of 178, 083 with runners in scoring position, which is good for 2 for 24. They're averaging 1.43 runs per game, 8 extra base hits in total, 4 straight games with double-digit strikeouts, and 11 strikeouts in the latest loss alone. So I get in early still, but are you panicking here, thinking that this is something to really worry about with the New York Mets team?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm at a panic. I know some people are. But it's very, very frustrating to watch. I've seen bad starts before. It's such a far cry from what we saw on opening day. Like they came out, like got Paul Skeens out of the game in 2/3 of an inning, like didn't get through the first, put up, I want to say like 11 runs. Carson Ben just hitting, getting involved in the game. Big deal. Like everything was looking so good, at the very beginning. And then, it slowed down, but they were still 7-4, seemingly not so long ago. 7 straight is rough, and the way in which they've lost these games is so frustrating. They're in a lot of these games. Like the pitching has been a little up and down recently, but for the season, the pitching's been very, very good. David Peterson, I don't know what's going on with him, but he seems to have lost a little bit. Kodai Senga, his last start, he looked like the second half of last year's Senga. The first 2 starts this year, he looked fantastic. So I don't know what we're going to get from him. He's maybe one of the most unpredictable starting pitchers in Major League Baseball. But Nolan McLean, I mean, has been even better than he was last year. Like he's putting his name with some other guys as far as things he's been able to do in a small stretch of time. A great company, let's just say that. But honestly, this is mostly about offense. We could get in the bullpen too. They've had some woes of their own, but they've been in a lot of close games late. And these last 3 games, if you've watched the 9th inning, whether you're a Met fan or just a baseball fan, they have been eye-opening. Like, what the hell was that? In a 1-run game last night, they saw 10 pitches in the 9th inning. Only one of those 10 pitches was a strike, yet they went down 1-2-3. So that is showing you that they are swinging at everything. They're down by 1. I don't know what's happened. And this has happened now multiple games in a row where it looks like all of a sudden they're in a panic. And one thing I said about this team and why I was actually high on them coming into the season was like I felt like it was a clubhouse of professionals. It doesn't look like that mentality when they're up there. It looks like they're like in a panic, like just trying to hit anything. And I know pitchers are as nasty as they've ever been nowadays. I get that, but like looks like they have no approach, and whatever approach they had previous to the 9th inning goes out the window. The night before Tanner Scott was out there, he only needed 8 pitches to complete the 9th inning. And that was not a 1-run game. I think the Dodgers were up 4-0. But again, like you're not completely out of the game, and they put nothing together. The day before that, against the A's, they were down 1-0 in the ninth. Guess how many pitches it took to finish them off in the ninth? Four pitches. 4 pitches. All 3 guys grounded out. So only one guy saw more than one pitch. Listen, I played baseball for a long time, not even close to any level like this. But there were times where we would, if we were down by a run or two in the last inning, last licks, right? We would literally go up and down the dugout and say, everybody takes a pitch. Nobody's swinging first pitch. And sometimes no one's swinging until you have 2 strikes on you. Like if you saw a guy out there with questionable control, that's what we would do. And like I, as a baseball player, always loved swinging at the first pitch. It's oftentimes the best pitch you're going to see. Sometimes you'll get a fat fastball. They're trying to get one over and get ahead. So like that was hard for me to do that. Like I wasn't that type of hitter to work a count. But in that situation, I knew it was like you got to play it a little differently. And I'm not saying at MLB level they should just go in with that full mentality of like we're not swinging at all at first pitch, but like have some type of approach. Like get some guys on base. Like I watched the Rays, and that roster is not that impressive. But they have found, if you watch the Rays, they find ways to just get on base, bunting the ball all over the place, like annoying you, taking the extra base, stealing bases. They're a pain in the ass to play. And you watch the Mets in the ninth inning, it's just like throw the ball over the plate or somewhere near it, and they'll either roll over it or hit a lazy pop-up. There's just like the way they're hitting the ball, even when they make contact, which to be honest, contact's not their biggest problem. Just hitting the ball with zero authority most of the time. I'll give you some more numbers. The numbers you gave were great about the actual streak here. But as far as the season, 14 home runs, tied for 5th worst in the league. Strikeouts, middle of the pack. So again, that's not their main issue, if you're asking me. Walks, bottom third of the league. There is one qualified hitter in Major League Baseball that still has 0 walks. Brett Beatty, only guy who's qualified. 0 walks. Really? 0? Batting average, bottom third of the league. On base percentage, 3rd worst in the league. Slugging percentage, 5th worst in the league. And I know they're missing Juan Soto, but don't give me that excuse when you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars. He's not the only dude there. Barrel percentage, if we want to get into StatCast type of stuff, tied for the 5th worst. That goes along with like, yeah, they're making some okay contact as a team, but they're not hitting it with any authority. Plate discipline is also an issue. 32.4% chase rate. That feels like it's all in the 9th inning, honestly. That's the 4th worst. But at the same time, these numbers can be confusing sometimes. The Braves are literally just barely better than them in that department, and their offense is absolutely humming. So I don't know. Whiff percentage, middle of the pack. Meatball swing percentage, one of my favorite. Basically, like how often are they swinging at the fat pitches? 2nd highest in the league. They're going after those pitches that they should be, not really resulting in what you would hope it would. Ground ball percentage, this is one problem. They're hitting the ball on the ground way too much. 45.8%, 5th highest in Major League Baseball. 26th in the league in runs scored. It's bleak. Jorge Polanco, I should mention him. They've been DHing him instead of playing him at first like they said they were going to do because he's had some kind of an Achilles issue. Dude, if you watch Jorge Polanco, and he looks like a shell of the guy you saw who was a very clutch player for the Mariners last year. And I think the Mets need to realize, like, I'm sure Polanco feels some kind of responsibility to stay out there as a guy who is new here, signed a $20 million a year deal, right? Expected to be a big part of the offense. But some guys can't play through injury. Some guys can and some guys cannot. If you go back, not last year, but the year before that, he was really bad for the Mariners, and it turns out he was unhealthy for a large part of that season. Knee issues, was terrible. And when they brought him back for the next year, a lot of Mariners fans were not pleased, but he had gotten procedures to clean that stuff up. He was healthy, and he was a completely different player, one of the better hitters in the league last year. If you watch him, man, when he hits the ball, there's no punch. And then when he's running, quote unquote, to first base, I don't know why he's out there. He's not helping anybody right now. Like, let him go get healthy. There's a lot to look at. And I think the end of this is like, there's a lot of talk amongst fans and radio personalities and writers about, like, is Carlos Mendoza going to be fired? I know we've talked about this. We've talked about this in our fantasy baseball chat. I get the sentiment. I get that you might not love the answers he gives. I don't know what firing Carlos Mendoza would do for the Mets right now. Like, would that make them better? I know you can point to the Phillies that year. They got rid of Girardi in the middle of the season. They end up going to the World Series, turning it around completely. I just don't think that is necessarily. I think that is the outlier. I don't think that's the rule of thumb.
Unbelievable. Darby Allin just won the AEW title as I just was watching live on screen. He just squashed MJF. He just beat him.
Non-wrestling fans are going to be very confused. Like, what the hell are we talking about?
But what you said, the numbers to me are just absolutely just kind of encapsulates what's here. And I think really we'll get to the Steve Cohen response on Twitter that was making everybody very upset. When you score one run in 29 innings, highlighting individual hits and almost feels to me like the larger issue. And I think Tuesday's game, of all the things you were referencing, is the clearest snapshot of what is wrong with the team. Francisco Lindor is a huge problem right now. He leads off with a home run, which was his first RBI of the season. His average sits at 194, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto retired the next 20 straight hitters, and there's no other production. The only other was a double by Bo, single by Carson Bench, and Lindor gets a single as well. That's it. 4 hits, 1 run, no pressure. And then we watch even, situational failure is sort of like the 9th inning. We watch a conversation we're going to get to later in the night with Edwin Diaz, and are they using him? His velocity's down, trailing by a run in the 9th. The Mets got overly aggressive at the plate, and Alex Vesia strikes out the side. So it's like for them, you pinpointed the 2 to 3 weeks they're going to be without Juan Soto with the calf injury. And I don't know if that is enough to explain this collapse of offense, because as you said before, it is multifaceted. It's from every corner of the lineup, because good lineups don't fall to less than 100 with runners in scoring position. I mentioned the number. It's 0.083 with runners in scoring position during this stretch. And that's not just Juan Soto not being there. I think he clearly provides discipline and some structure in that lineup, but without him, the flaws are exposed. And I don't know, it has to get better. And as I mentioned before, I'm not looking at this lineup as being this bad, but I think this is the type of stuff that can be contagious based off what we saw last year. And it leads us into the Steve Cohen tweet that got everybody upset. He said, quote, "Nobody likes to lose, but I saw some green shoots tonight. On offense, Lindor had 2 hits, including a home run. Bichette got a double hitting it to left field as opposed to recently being right field prone. Ben's got a solid hit. Soto started his running progression today, ... And a lot of people were very upset about this. Mendoza's saying the right things as well. I don't think Mendoza's the issue, to kind of answer your question. But as a Met fan, when you see Steve Cohen get out there and start saying these things, does it upset you, or is it just trying to be the light in a very dark time for Mets fans?
Yeah, it didn't upset me personally, but I can understand people's frustration. I think my friends and I, we there's something we say to each other to mess with each other. When someone's saying something kind of obvious, and it's don't talk to me like I'm a kid, right? And we'll just shoot that back at each other. And I think that's probably how some people felt about that tweet. Like, don't talk to me like I'm an idiot. Like, I understand, like, you're trying to like pull the wool over my eyes in a way. Like, okay, there's some positives. We lost 7 in a row and we can't score for anything. So that's a pretty a tough one to buy into. I'm not mad at Steve Cohen for tweeting it out. Like, he's trying to put some positivity out there. But yeah, man, the Mets, it goes to this, man. Like, they need to start winning. They need to put a streak together. You just threw a wrestling thing in. A crazy thing happened in AEW of a quick championship turn that I think was unexpected amongst many people. The wrestling has now entered this Mets losing streak to bring this back, where on the WWE side, there's this wrestler named Danhausen, who is more of a comic relief wrestler in the same vein as like a R-Truth or a Santino, or I don't know, if we go back further, who's like a comedic wrestler from like the 90s or the 80s. Did they have those guys back then?
I mean, maybe like Coco Beware or something like that. But I would say Hurricane Helms reminds me of that. Crash Holly, guys that are sort of the undercard. But Danhausen, I think he's the right energy for what WWE needs right now. And he's caught fire. I mean, for what was an underwhelming debut, he kind of encapsulates what the kids enjoy about wrestling.
Yeah. So anyway, former like head writer of WWE, Brian Gewirtz, right? I don't know if he's still involved with them or not.
He's The Rock's personal writer or something. Right. That was like his deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess he's a Met fan because he tweeted out like, kind of jokingly, Danhausen, if you can uncurse the Mets, because that's his whole thing. He goes around cursing other wrestlers and like putting a spell on them, and it like actually works. Like I'll do something for you. I forget what it is that he said, but Danhausen replied and said, "All right, deal." Like I uncursed them. So if they win tonight and then they win
on a truck, Danhausen wants his face on one of the traveling trucks.
So anyway, that's where we are now as Met fans. We now have this comedic wrestler from WWE somehow being involved in the season. We've seen this act before go well in 2024. The vibes were high after Grimace. So Mets fans right now somehow are hoping that this curse thing from a WWE wrestler is going to help us out somehow. We'll take anything right now. If they can go beat Shohei Ohtani tonight and go to Wrigley with some momentum, like anything, just a sign of life, please.
Yeah, the Mets love their gimmicks. We know that. They like their gimmicks, and it does go over well with the fan base, and we'll see if we can get them going. Anything can get them going. I remember when the Yankees were slumping, they had Jason Giambi's golden thong. So like anything to get a team going when they're struggling is well versed here. We talked about last year with the pocket pancakes last year with the Milwaukee Brewers and the breakfast sausage with the Minnesota Twins. Anything to make you guys rally at some point when you're struggling, change the vibes. I think, again, to kind of wrap up the conversation, when you look at the way the team is losing, and I understand it's hard to watch a team not scoring. It is ugly, especially when they're going down listlessly into the ninth inning and situational hitting. But as you mentioned, they're not getting blown out. And I think good pitching with a handful of mistakes and some lousy offense holding them back, that might just be enough to make you look at, okay, one side is clicking. Can we get the offense going? And we know that as the weather gets warmer, Lindor is not going to hit this poorly all year. We know what Lindor is. We know what the back of the baseball card is. He's going to hit home runs in bunches at some point. The other thing I can't help but think about is the hamate bone. I understand that was a big conversation with the lack of power. Corbin Carroll has the same thing. He seems to be okay with the power, but this hamate bone stuff was an issue that we came in, and maybe Lindor's not fully healthy, and that's maybe more the conversation.
I think, and I don't want to go too full into this because we've spent enough time on the Mets. We're going to get to our other stuff, but the Lindor stuff, it's worth mentioning. It's not just that he's not hitting, and he's not the only one not hitting, but it's when you're a star like that, it's more pronounced. It's also he's making some like blunders, some mental blunders on the base paths and in the field, which like we have never seen before. And I go back to that game where they tried to send him home on a Juan Soto double, I think to tie the game, and he was thrown out, got tagged right kind of on his neck and head area, it snapped back, hit the back of his head, and it looked like he had like the finger thing going on when you get knocked out. Like I think of Tua Tagovailoa in football with all those concussions where you kind of, I don't know I can't remember what the term is, but it almost looks like rigor mortis. And then he popped up and walked in, and we like never heard anything about it after that, which was bizarre to me because in my head, I'm like, oh, we're absolutely getting concussion news after this game. Like 2 hours after the game, he's going on the 7-day concussion IL. Nothing happened. And you see this, and it reminds me very much, and you as a Yankee fan will remember this, of Anthony Rizzo. And I believe, I don't know, it was 2023, 2024, when like he was out there just looking like a shell of himself for, I don't know, weeks, months. And everyone, Yankee fan, is like, who is this dude? This is not Anthony Rizzo. And it turns out, like, I don't know if they missed a concussion or there weren't signs of it. He had post-concussion syndrome, and he just wasn't there mentally, physically, and nothing. I watched Lindor, and I'm like, are we sure this dude is completely okay right now, like mentally and physically? I'm positive they've heard those whispers and they've checked it out. Not positive, but I'm pretty sure they would check it out. It'd be pretty negligent not to, but it's bizarre to me. And I don't know. They've just got to have one good night and try to snowball that. And I think it's harder as a Met fan to see the Braves just winning in all different ways. They have our pitching coach, our longtime pitching coach, who we moved on from. They have our first base coach who helped everyone steal bases. Dom Smith, of all people, is somehow absolutely raking for the Atlanta Braves right now with some really big clutch hits. Like, it's kind of sickening as a Met fan and feels like same old story. Like this is we've seen this act before.
So we'll see if the Mets can get off the mat tonight. Maybe if you're listening tomorrow, you know they already won the game, but we're watching right now live with Ohtani on the mound. So we'll see what can go down here. But let's get to the meat of the order and talk about the rest of the news around baseball.
We have the meat.
Okay, let's head to the first story in the meat of the order, and it's Tetsuya Imai. So he's heading to the injured list with arm fatigue, but that's not the biggest part of the story because the thing that came out in a quote was that he hasn't been able to adjust to the American lifestyle. So look at some of the numbers right now. I mean, this is a transition to the league as we've been discussing all through the build-up of the season. 7.27 ERA, 11 walks, 13 strikeouts, and just 8 2/3 innings. And you look at this. I mean, the last outing for he did last out, he only got one out through 37 pitches, walked 3, hit a batter, gave up 3 runs. And it feels like he doesn't have a command or a feel of any of the pitches that made him just a highly sought after free agent transferring over to Major League Baseball. The biggest thing is like I said before, the not being able to adapt to American lifestyle, baseball, and outside of baseball. Okay, so travel is different, as we know. Eating is different. He mentioned the instead of 6 stadiums like in Japan, he's dealing with 30, adjusting to a new mound constantly. Is this overstated to you? Is this a huge issue? I'm in the camp of this is a red flag of it's just getting started, brother. Like this is you just got here, and this is what we're talking about,
dude. Giant red flag. The more I read, the more I was like, what? And I know there's a translator, like there's a middleman, and hopefully he's doing a good job of really getting across what Tatsuya actually means. But I also think Tatsuya is speaking a little too openly. If he's actually saying this, I'll read the exact quotes, and you alluded to a few of them. But the first one, and this is what we started with, he's not able to adjust to the American lifestyle, baseball and outside of baseball. That's probably the reason for his arm fatigue. What? How is not being able to adjust to American lifestyle the reason for your arm fatigue? That one seemed weird. And then you keep on reading. And you talked about the mound thing. The mound was really hard at T-Mobile. And he struggled to pitch in 64-degree weather, something not usual in Japan. 64 degrees? It's not like it's 30 degrees out there. So that one also caught me like shaking my head. Another one, and you alluded to this as well. For example, the travel is different from Japan, Imai said. According to his translator, the timing when the players eat. In Japan, when they get back to the hotel, they eat their dinner. Here, the players eat at the stadium. He thought it would be the same as in Japan, for example, eating dinner at the hotel. He thinks, even though he's on the IL right now, he thinks it's a positive thing to try and adjust and try to become better. There's just a lot there that, what the hell are we talking about here? Like, you're a professional. Right. What do we expect? I mean, maybe some of this is on the Astros. This is the first NPB player they have brought straight over, like directly over from there. They've had other guys on the team, like you say Kikuchi, but he was not directly to the Astros. He played for a few other organizations first. So I don't know if they're doing a bad job. Another thing I read that kind of made me think red flag, he's on his 3rd different translator with the Astros already. What's going on with the translator? I've never heard something like that before. He's on his 3rd different translator. I'm more concerned with all this stuff than the numbers. 7.27 ERA, yes, super, super ugly. 2.08 whip, awful. He did have one good start in between 2 very bad ones. If you look at his Baseball Savant page, it's one of the craziest pages I've ever seen. You got like way red bar followed by first percentile blue bar, like over and over, alternating. So like you see the talent is there. The whiff percentage, super high. The barrel percentage, really good. People are not barreling him up. The expected batting average, pretty damn low, like high percentile for Imai. But then walk percentage, worst in the league, right? Chase percentage, really bad. It's bizarre. Obviously, there's probably more to come here. The Astros seem a little bit snake bit, especially on the pitching side. But yeah, to answer your question, absolutely a red flag, a head scratcher for sure.
So this goes back to the Jim Allen interview we did in the offseason. I kept thinking back to Jim talking about him being a competitor and him wanting to compete with Ohtani and Yamamoto and wanting to be the guy and be a superstar. This is the antithesis of someone who wants to be a superstar. And maybe there is an adaptation that needs to be made. And maybe there's a level of us kind of being spoiled with the way some of the players that have come over adapting, like a Shohei Ohtani, a superhuman. And we saw Yamamoto struggle in spurts in his first year as well. But the thing is, as you said before, the lack of adaptability, and it's only going to get harder because as we were talking about before, the travel is different in Japan, only 6 stadiums that they play in there, and there's 30 here. it's the beginning of the season. They haven't traveled that much yet. And some of the other things we're looking at is just you are a professional baseball player, and I'm not going to sit here and say that they have no adversity, but you're essentially taken care of. Every meal of the day is taken care of. You really don't have to worry about managing your free time. They kind of don't leave you wanting for anything, especially when you're on the road. So the adaptation as far as culturally, I get it. Like that is a big culture shock going over to Houston from living in Japan. I 100% get that. And maybe he's away from his family, and that's part of it. But the correlation between arm fatigue and a struggle and talking about that is not the correlation you want being made. And they think that's better than just saying my arm isn't warmed up yet. I don't have the mileage in it quite yet. I would be more okay with the arm just being tired right now. I'm looking at the numbers. You mentioned the Baseball Savant page. The biggest concern to me is the 11 walks in 8 2/3 innings. That is just something you can't have. And his routine is off, obviously, and he's overthrowing to compensate, and the counts get longer. And the spots that we're looking at for him, he doesn't look dominant. And I'm not saying I thought he was going to look dominant, but I thought he would look serviceable at some point. And looking at some of the starts, he just looks non-competitive in some. There's the one start you mentioned, he was out there doing his thing, and it kind of increased some of the numbers, like the Baseball Savant page. We saw a little glimpse of what he could be. Like you said, more to come from this. I think he is a personality, like Jim Allen was saying. And if you read anything in the NPB about him as a superstar, I wouldn't use the word quirky, but there is a uniqueness to him. Eccentric. And that might just play a part here where it may not be a good match in Houston or could just eventually need to work itself out.
Yeah, just weird vibes in Houston right now. You also had Dana Brown kind of, in a way, maybe accidentally call out Hunter Brown, saying he thinks the shoulder injury is because he's throwing unnecessarily hard in spring training. And like, that's something you probably want to like run by your player before putting it out to the media. And you could tell Hunter Brown, like, he took the high road, but you could also tell like he wasn't exactly pleased by that. And there's more, there's a lot going on in Houston as the offense crushes the ball, but they just still lose because they can't find any pitching. But the Imai stuff, we'll see. But certainly I'm not, again, like, we know players that come over from there struggle adjusting to the ball and all that, the different type of ball and stuff like that. It takes them a little while. Even Yamamoto, first few starts, you saw maybe struggle a little bit with that kind of stuff. But it's the quotes that sound like the mental side that to me are very, very concerning. And by the way, I feel like maybe I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. You and I and other people, fans and podcasters and writers, talk a little bit about weather and how like performances might change as the weather gets warmer and better. But I think this is the first year I've heard multiple players use it as an excuse. Like, you hear the Imai thing, and Jazz Chisholm said it recently too, of like basically blaming his struggles on the weather, and it's just really cold. Are you cool with that? Or is it, I'll put it out there. I think that's bullshit for these professional millionaires to be complaining about the weather and attributing their poor performance to the weather. Like, leave that for people like us. Like, you shouldn't be saying that. That's my opinion, but
yeah, I don't like it being used as an excuse. I think it does get added as you can't help but bake it into the equation. But for Jazz Chisholm, he needs to be worried about knowing the goddamn rules of baseball before I mean, it's like True. Knowing what would be a double play. Like, that to me was egregious.
Yeah, that was egregious,
man. Yeah. But yeah, the weather thing, you're right. I think there is a mentality, and maybe this coincides with the labor dispute we're going to be having. Maybe that they're putting things out there. It is a strategic, momentum-based narrative they're trying to put out there of starting the season later. Maybe they want that out there of because it feels like it's a coordinated effort. Like you said, we don't usually hear players making excuses, and now we're getting a whole bunch of them saying it. So maybe there's like a coordinated effort to start the season in mid-April instead of late March.
Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. You never know, because that's kind of going to play into everything we see and hear this year.
So let's move ahead here to the Minnesota Twins, the most unlikely of offensive juggernauts we're seeing take the field this year. And they were on the losing side of things to the Red Sox, but they still put up some runs in the ninth inning and weren't going quietly into that good night. Sit 11-8, but I think looking at some of the numbers from the Twins, I have on my phone, I follow a couple accounts. I follow MLB daily lineups and I follow MLB home runs. So every home run that goes through, I have notifications that come up on my phone. So in my mind, I know who's hitting home runs every single day. So I'll see some names pop up. And that's why I'm in our fantasy baseball chat. I'm just like, how many goddamn Twins are hitting home runs, whether it be Byron Buxton or Ryan Jeffers. I'm seeing these names pop up. Minnesota Twins, 3-run home run. And if you look at just their numbers, again, they lost today. Their production isn't just hot. They have this approach right now, and this is not going to last. We know what the Twins are. They're in a for sale type of season with everything must go at Target Field. But looking at them, they had won before today, 7 of their last 8, scoring at least 7 runs in 5 of those wins. They're averaging 5.4 runs per game, which is good for 5th in MLB. They had hit 21 home runs, which is second most in Major League Baseball. Of course, that is as of yesterday, so we can kind of have it today. They hit some more bombs today, so maybe they sit somewhere in top 5. And it's coming in a big way. I think the underneath stat that no one's talking about is their walk rate. They're walking at 6th best rate in the MLB at 11.8%. And I think that's a big piece you need to look at, because this isn't just empty power. They're getting on base, as I mentioned. And I think really Derek Shelton was talking about that being the engine forcing pitchers into the zone. And that's where the 21 home runs come into play. And I also looked at the arms they were doing it against. And they've been doing against top arms. Tarek Skubal, the rally starts with back-to-back walks, turn into a 4-run inning against him. Frember Valdez, who hasn't really come into his own quite yet this year, but 6 of the first 7 Twins reach against him, and then damage follows that. Max Scherzer got beat up 8 runs in 2 1/3 innings after the traffic got on base. And how can we forget the Garrett Crochet blow up?
Oh my God.
11 runs before 5 outs, extended by walks, and obviously the hitters got some big swings. So that's really the pattern we're seeing from the Twins. They're patient at the plate, which is something we didn't see last year. They're putting traffic on bases, and then they're lighting them up with power from names you're not used to seeing. And some of the numbers, man, like Austin Martin has 12 walks right now. And again, this is not baked into the game against the Red Sox today. Ryan Jeffers has 8 walks. And Trevor Larnach is sitting with an OBP of 421. Victor Carantini, 373. They're earning better pitches to hit, and I'm excited to see this again. It's not going to last. I understand what the Twins are. But this is fun to see teams like the Rockies, team like the Twins coming out there and giving people a reason to come out to the ballpark. And you might see a slugfest coming from Minnesota.
Yeah, I love it. And for a team that everyone basically counts out, and they hear that noise, like coming out here and be like, all right, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So it's good for baseball too. And to go along with what you said, not like the walk rate and knowing the zone, 3rd best team chase percentage. Like they're not often swinging out of the zone. And that's the kind of things, like little things like that can become big things and take a team that is not supposed to be very good and help them overperform. And some of these numbers it can convince you that they might be able to make this last longer than you think. I do think they'll come back down to earth at some point here, but I expected to open the Fangraphs page and Baseball Savant stats and look at a bunch of stuff and see a bunch of stuff that showed me most of this is lucky. And I didn't really find that. 5th in slugging percentage, 6th best WRC plus, 5th best OPS. The team BABIP is just 282, which is actually the bottom half of the league. So that shows me it doesn't seem like all luck. If their BABIP was 380, I'd be like, all right, that's a little high. They're getting a little lucky here. It's not. They're hitting the ball in the air a lot. Everyone pull air percentage is the hot term now amongst players. They're looking to do that. Their home run per fly ball rate is 13.3%, which is the 4th highest. So that combination is obviously a positive. 4th in barrel percentage amongst teams. And then you look at the slugging percentage and the expected slugging percentage. Maybe this will show some luck. No, 401 slugging. The expected slug is 399. It's basically exactly what it's supposed to be if you're looking at that statistic. But I think the one I like best is the one I said first, 3rd best team chase percentage. If you can keep that going, we just talked about the Mets and having a really poor chase percentage as a team. It seems to make a pretty big deal amongst those two teams. Byron Buxton obviously leading the way, the face of that team. You saw him get the 10 years thing recently and kind of poured his heart out about how proud it makes him to still be representing Minnesota. We saw last year his name came up in trade rumors, and he basically said, no, I want to play here. This is where I want to be. But Josh Bell actually has the better stats. I will say the Josh Bell signing is basically a signing that no one thought anything of. A blip on the radar, all right, Josh Bell, okay. Leading the team with a 140 WRC plus, 3 home runs, 14 RBI. He's out hitting everybody on that team, and a lot of guys are hitting. So that's something to be said there. I don't know, man. The AL Central is a little weird right now. The Tigers starting to play a little better, more consistent, but I don't really know what to make of that division right now.
And we saw last year with the Cleveland Guardians, they had no business competing at the top of the division. And
Right.
who knows what happens? We saw in that lineup last year with the Guardians outside of Jose Ramirez was a bunch of guys that would you want to put them in a lineup for a postseason team? So for the Twins, there's at least, I guess there's a formula in some alternate universe where this team can be a postseason team if Byron Buxton is a superstar, if he can stay healthy, if Joe Ryan is a full ace, and all these other guys are walking at the clip they are and hitting for the power. There's a lot of big ifs, but I guess it's more likely than it was as we sat here in the beginning. I wonder what the Pagoda ratings are now compared to what they were in the beginning of the season. That might be something good to look up as far as postseason expectancy. But I guess let's move into what's the word while you look that up. And we have some other good conversation to have here with baffling decisions being made by managers. But let's head over to our next segment. And just for some clarity, so what's the word? Our good friend Matt, who's in our baseball league, he sent me an audio clip of a song that by We Are the Scientists called "What's the Word." He said I should pull it for that, so maybe we'll pull it for next week.
There you go.
An older song, but some good stuff. So maybe we'll pull that for the "What's the Word" segment because I think he heard you say we need a drop for it. Do you have the Pagoda ratings before we move into the "What's the Word"?
Yeah. So Pagoda, obviously computer-based system here. It is updated every single day. So the projections now are different from preseason. They're different from a week ago. They have the projections for the AL Central as a pretty wild division. They have KC going on to win the division with 83 wins, which kind of gives you the picture right there. A team winning a division with only 83 wins. I mean, if Kansas City's offense can ever do anything, maybe. Detroit finishing second at 82 wins. And Minnesota finishing third with 81 wins. So they have it being crazy close with nobody being very, very good. And Cleveland finishing in fourth with 78 wins. And then the White Sox at 67. So they're trying to figure it out too.
That's shifted since the beginning of the year. I believe they had them at 68 wins going into the preseason. I could be wrong, but I remember us previewing and
pretty wild.
They were not giving any shots to make up that ground. And I think maybe the computer system likes to see the makeup of the team and of how they're winning. Like you said, there's really not a lot of luck built in. This seems to be a team that can withstand and have an offense that does their thing throughout the full 162. But we shall see. We'll keep you guys updated on the Minnesota Twins as we go. But our first segment of What's the Word here is Boone continuing to bench Ben Rice. And I think just set the stage here, if you guys are not following the New York-centric news cycle, the New York Yankees at this point, including today, have played 18 games. Ben Rice has sat in about 25% of them. And they're mostly versus lefties. Meanwhile, Aaron Boone was talking about, he was asked flat out by some of the Yankee beat writers, is he a platoon player? And he said, hell no. But I think the usage says otherwise. The issue is the roster construction, in my opinion. Paul Goldschmidt is a right-handed first base only bat, typically used against left-handed pitchers, and the DH spot is often occupied. You know the reason why, with Giancarlo Stanton or giving Judge a rest day out of the field. And that creates a hard cap on Ben Rice's at-bats. He's either going to get versus left-handed pitchers, it's going to be Goldschmidt at first base. DH is taking. That means Rice is going to sit. So even if Rice is producing, which he has been all year, it doesn't matter. Aaron Boone, whatever nerd is sitting behind a computer, is saying the lineup is predetermined. Ben Rice is going to sit. And I think that frustration is super valid. And the solution for me, looking at the way this roster is constructed, and we had this issue last year, sign a right-handed backup catcher and make Rice the everyday first baseman. Instead, they brought back Goldschmidt and effectively burned a roster spot on the short side platoon bat who only plays first base, and that creates a logjam. And we talked about just this team that didn't fit together last year, and they brought the crew back together, and we're kind of back to where we are at this point. You can't use Ben Rice like a platoon player and want him to play like a superstar. You can't get into a routine like that. So my word is frustrating.
Yeah, and that's a good one. It's very interesting. Like Boone also had a quote saying something along the lines of like he likes having him at his disposal as a weapon at any time in the game, something along those lines, which I just feel like this is not my word, but I feel like it's like short-sighted. Before I give you my word, versus lefties so far this year, he's at 13 plate appearances. He's gone 3 for 12, so he's hitting 250 in a very small sample size against lefties. All singles, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. Not a lot to bite in there. Against righties, 359, obviously tearing it up, 4 home runs. There was this post that caught my attention earlier. I believe the handle is like Rational Yankee Fan on Twitter. And he was trying to actually defend the Yankees' usage of Ben Rice and say, like, hey, listen, guys, I know you're all talking about his OPS and how can a guy that leads the league in OPS be on the bench when they face lefties? And his point was like, would he actually be leading the league in OPS if he played against lefties all the time? And his argument was no, because his numbers are going to come down. And I get that. And he's probably right. Like, though, if he's playing against every single lefty, never sitting, the numbers come down a bit. But like, are they going to come down that much? No, I still have a feeling he's going to be a very, very like an all-star level or close player. And we will never know what his ceiling actually is if he doesn't get the chance. I believe I saw a clip from last night's game where it looked like he was frustrated and talking to Judge, maybe either after he pinch hit or something. And some people were trying to do the lip reading thing. I don't know if it was legit, but they're saying like he was expressing frustration that he was, not starting again. I don't know if you saw that or not. Mm-hmm. But if I'm Ben Rice and I'm doing like everything I need to do to prove myself, and I'm continually being benched against left-handed pitching, man, I'd be annoyed. My word, and it's 2 words, so I'm cheating a little bit, but it's just too cute. And I feel like Aaron Boone and other managers do this. They get too cute sometimes. They overthink it. There was another game last night as a Brandon Lau fantasy owner that frustrated me very much, and Pirates fans had to be frustrated more. Brandon Lau last night had hit, I believe, his 4th home run in 3 games. And a big situation comes up late in the game. They're down, I think, 1, bases loaded. Who's coming to the plate? Brandon Lau. The other team pulls the pitcher and puts a lefty in. Don Kelly, this is the 7th inning, by the way. It's not like the end of the game. They pinch hit for Brandon Lau with Nick York, a righty, with bases loaded, 1 out, down 1, and one of the hottest hitters in Major League Baseball over the last week is supposed to be at the plate. And not only do you pinch hit for him, now he's out of the game. So like another big situation could come up later in the game. And guess what? It did. Nick York grounds into a double play, inning over, threat over, still down 1. They rally in the 9th, get a few guys on, look like they're going to come back. Who comes to the plate with 2 outs? Nick York again. Would have been Brandon Lau. And this time it would have been against a righty. Nick York, little pop-up foul ball. And nothing against Nick York, right? But like, Brandon Lau is a big acquisition, dude. Like, and he had just, I believe the home run he hit last night early in that game was against a lefty. So not to go on a diatribe about, I just feel like left-handed hitters are treated so differently than like right-handed hitters who struggle against right-handed pitching when you look at the numbers. Like, it's always the left-handed hitters that are just not given as much of an opportunity, even if they're proving themselves in every way they can. So it's too cute. It's not just Boone, but I think it's got to change.
For sure. I mean, it's not just the Ben Rice situation. He's the most egregious because it feels like he needs the reps and the confidence to be in the field every day. It has to be frustrating for him. I use that word for myself. We watched the beginning of the year, and I'm not saying it's the reason they started this losing streak, but Giancarlo Stanton couldn't be stricken out. He couldn't get out. He was hitting everything his way. And what they do, they put him on the bench. And I understand he's a guy that is injury prone. He's a guy that can get hurt. All those things. But when a guy is hot, just ride the hot hand. I understand what the computer metric says. Just you print a sheet out, and Ben Rice isn't supposed to be playing against left-handed pitchers. It's just like, why?
Yeah.
If he's going to be your superstar first baseman or whatever he's going to be for you, he's going to play every day. Is Aaron Judge ever sitting? Unless you're giving him a rest day, you're never going to give this kid an opportunity to play. For Paul Goldschmidt, that's what we're doing. I mean, we saw this happen in the WBC. I mean, fucking Mark DeRosa didn't think the game mattered, but you can't have Paul Goldschmidt getting meaningful at bats. I'm sorry. Like, if that's
guys
the
love
case,
them some Goldschmidt, man.
Dude,
Goldschmidt happens.
It's 100%. It's almost like Moneyball, where they had Carlos Pena kept on getting in the way, and they wound up trading Carlos Pena. Get rid of the logjam. Figure out a way to get Ben Rice every day at bats. And the Randall Grichuk stuff, I get it. You want to be able to have guys on the bench, and maybe at some point Grichuk will come up in a big spot. But too cute is probably better than my word. It's so frustrating to watch guys that have every ability to play 162 as a young kid, and they are able to sit because some computer printout said that. I'm all for the analytics, but there's got to be some feel and some nuance. Come on.
No doubt about it. I think everyone's on the same page with that one, to be honest, other than Rational Yankee Fan.
Yeah, exactly. But let's get to our second one here, and it's Mason Miller. And the stretch for Mason Miller isn't really just dominant. I mean, this run is insane. He hasn't allowed a run in 25 and 2/3 straight innings, the longest active streak in baseball. It goes back to August 5th of last year. And if you expand it, including the postseason and also the WBC, it's 32 and 1/3 consecutive scoreless innings, and that's elite. So you look at them, opponents are hitting .063, 5 for 79. All hits are singles. Nearly 60% of hitters are striking out, which is, you want to get specific, it's 59.6%. The whiff rate sits at 52.2%, slugging allowed .063. There's no hard hit, no contact, no real chance to build anything. And the 11 strikeouts out of 15 batters faced this season, 9 straight strikeouts, all swinging, only 6 called balls during that stretch. And I mean, dude, even this year, his slider alone has produced a whiff rate of 76.9%, 33 strikeouts and 44 plate appearances ending on sliders. The second pitch is really the one they can't touch at this point. And of the last 50 hitters he's faced, only one have gotten a hit. And nice little trivia question. It's Luis Ariz. So it's the 8th longest scoreless streak in Padres history. The record is 33 and 2/3. So he's approaching that. And his 0.65 ERA through the first 26 appearances with San Diego is the 3rd lowest in franchise history. Man, it's unbelievable. It's just, he's a freak of nature. That's what he is.
Is that your word, freak of nature?
No, it's dominant.
All right, that's good too. My word is phenomenal. I mean, we could go. You could just kind of give him 10 words here. I not a lot to add to it, to be honest. It's unbelievable. You mentioned the 32 and a third innings, what he's done there, scoreless. That's over 30 appearances, 5 hits. I think you mentioned that. 70 strikeouts. You mentioned the percentage, 70 strikeouts total in those 32 and a third innings. It's ridiculous, unbelievable. Would you, if you were AJ Preller, knowing what you know now and how knowing how last season ended and all that stuff, would you do that trade again?
I think so.
Leo DeVries, yeah. I'm still on the fence about it. Even as amazing as Miller is, like they wanted him to try to get over the hump last year and win in a different way. Just a ridiculous bullpen. They already had an amazing bullpen before him, and he took it to another level. Didn't work out. But I don't know. I still am 50-50 about it. Obviously, we won't really know until we see Leo DeVries at the big league level and who he actually is at that level. But tricky one. Just another quick Padres. First of all, we should shout them out. They've won 9 of 10. They're on a roll now. I don't know what they're doing right now tonight, but they've been one of the hottest teams in baseball. But a very interesting thing, Fernando Tatis has made a couple starts at second base suddenly.
Yep.
And did you hear what Harold Reynolds, his take on this?
I didn't hear it. I heard that Rated Barrel's take on it.
So Harold Reynolds came out and said, I think the reason he's playing second is to showcase him in a different position. And now teams that are interested at the deadline can maybe see him as an outfielder or second baseman. We know he can play shortstop, increase his value, because Reynolds was saying they just can't pay all these contracts. They're going to have to get rid of someone. Obviously, the Padres are up for sale right now. There are some pretty intriguing potential buyers from what I've read and heard. But when you sell a team, it's same thing with the Twins, who have stopped short of selling, and that's a whole different story. But a lot of times you will try to cut payroll. So I don't know. Do you buy into that at all? It seems early in the season to do some type of showcase like that.
I could see that side of things, especially with the business side of things, but I took it as just really building your lineup out and keeping him in the lineup and finding ways to get guys all over the field. And the versatility has always been a part of his game before the injury. So the fact that now he's playing second base, it's part of his repertoire. So it wasn't shocking to me. I just think he's a very athletic guy that can do whatever he puts his mind to. And it does make him more attractive to other suitors out there. There's no doubt about that. And if they're looking to sell, even if they're looking to trade a Mason Miller, I think there is a showcase level where, yeah, you trade Leo DeVries for him, but maybe at the deadline, who's to say you can't get a package that is unreal? Who knows what the market looks like in July if you put Mason Miller on the block for a contender or a Fernando Tatis Jr., it would be, we don't know what the prices are. We know what they were last year. it could be insane this year going into a year where we may not have baseball next year.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, I just thought it caught me off guard to see like a big baseball personality throw that out there. It's not just Joe Schmo on Twitter being like, oh, they're going to trade. Like when someone like that says something, I feel like it carries a little more weight. But let's go to our next one here. This one I'm very intrigued by here. Our next for what's the word is the Dodgers seemingly avoiding using their new closer, Edwin Diaz, in save situations recently, specifically last night. Right, we talked about that one-run game, Dodgers-Mets, and they bring in Alex Vesia the night before. It wasn't a safe situation. It was a 4-run game, but they brought in Tanner Scott. So we have not seen Diaz appear against his former team, the Mets. A lot of things going on here. The velocity is down on the fastball and slider. The arm angle is down significantly, 19 degrees to 16 degrees this year, and 19 last year was already down from previous years, so that angle continues to drop. And that's not necessarily always a bad thing. Some people get better when they do that. It depends on the pitcher. Just something to look at and mention. The strikeout percentage is down. The walk percentage is up. You want to reverse those two things. This one is the most interesting to me. If you really dig into the stats, and the baseball savant page, there's one that was very eye-opening to me. And again, this is small sample size, right? He hasn't thrown all that much this year, but his in-zone swing and miss percentage has dropped. And not just dropped, it's fallen off the face of the earth. It's dropped by almost 25 percentage points. The biggest drop in all of Major League Baseball by a lot for this stat. Again, we're talking about his in-zone swing and miss percentage. How often can you get a guy to swing and miss at a ball in the strike zone? And closers, you need to be able to do that. And Edwin was elite at this. Nasty, nasty stuff. It went from 31.5% last year to 6.7% so far this year. Like barely getting any swing and miss in the zone. There's a lot to talk about here. I will just throw this caveat in there. I think there's concern, and I think some of those numbers, concern is valid when you look at them. But the Dodgers are the only team in Major League Baseball with the luxury to let a guy like Edwin Diaz just rest as long as he needs. As long as he needs. They've done this before, and they're out in the open about it. They're doing it with Blake Snell right now. They did it with Tyler Glasnow last year. Like, just put him on the IL. Don't even think about calling him back until he's a billion% ready to go. Like, we'll be fine without you for a little while. We want you healthy for the stretch run and the postseason. So, like, if it was a different team, I think there'd be more concern. It's a little strange to see him being held back a little bit this early. But I noticed now. So my word, I shouldn't skip. That's the segment. My word is telling. I think it's telling that they're that's a prime situation. The Dodgers love to rub this shit in your face, right? To put him out there against his former team to shut him down. They would love doing something like that. The first game of the series, they played the video on the big board. First game of Dodgers Mets at Dodger Stadium. On the big board, they showed the video of Edwin Diaz telling Dave Roberts why he wanted to come to the Dodgers. Like, just to troll the Mets and Mets fans. So you don't think they would love to put him out there? I think it's very telling that he was not out there.
My word is calculated, so kind of the same as you. You mentioned before the numbers for the fastball averaging 95.8 right now, down from what we saw last year, an average of 97.2. And I pinpoint, I think the only reason this is a conversation is because the save he blew in Texas, or Texas, I should say, the outing was, 95.5 miles per hour or lower. And that's only happened 6 times in his career. So there's something to these numbers that are dropping. And as you mentioned before, they want to make sure he's right. It is calculated on their part. They want to make sure he's right. He's day to day right now. He's not injured, but he's clearly not at the full build quite yet. And the other context we have to have for the situation, as you mentioned, Tanner Scott got the one save, but Alex Vesia was in last night. And if you look at the context and the news all around Los Angeles and the team, Alex Vesia bought 30 tickets for doctors and nurses treating his late child that passed away, that they did all they can while they were in the hospital. And Alex Vesia came out and had a huge moment for the save. And I'm not saying you build out games for that, but they gave Alex Vesia a chance in a showcase spot. So when I saw him getting the save, and then you see the story here where, dozens of doctors and nurses there to see him, and obviously that is an emotional moment and might as well have been October game 7 for him out there. That plays a part too. That's a piece of the context there. But for the Edwin Diaz thing, it wouldn't shock me for them to put him on the IL, as you mentioned before, even if it's just maintenance. And as a Edwin Diaz owner in fantasy, not the things I want to hear, but I think this is routine for them. They do this and they're going to get ready from the lights of the brightest. And that's part of Dodger baseball, baby.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, I guess we'll see. The Vestia thing is a good point. It's not something I saw that story today, and I didn't really put the 2 and 2 together. But I wouldn't put it past them to like specifically try to make that moment for them. They know they can kind of do things like that in the situation they're in.
Out like it's pro wrestling. You want to go back to pro wrestling? They're able.
Yeah,
we'll give you
Dave Roberts scripting it before the.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, let's finish
here. Yeah, Kevin McGonigal, and we saw the extension happen here. This is very much in vogue of baseball at large right now. And my word is aggressive, and it's a very aggressive move by the Detroit Tigers. But when you start to line up the numbers, similar to what we're talking about, the other young players that they lock up, 8 years, $150 million, and up to 160 with escalators after just 17 Major League Baseball games. So the underlying bet, as we've been talking about with a lot of these young players, is on the profile, not a sample size. The first 17 games you can look at it, but I don't even know if it's worth it to discuss. 311, 19 for his first 61, a 909 OPS, 11 walks versus 8 strikeouts. But the advanced indicators are what really push for this. He's in the 97th percentile in whiff percentage at 12%, 11.1% strikeout rate, 95th percentile. His walk rate is the 85th percentile, 15.3%. And we know, I mean, we know what this prospect has been for a long time. Elite zone control. He's a guy who has a big control of the bat. His swing decisions and bat to ball skills is something we heard at every single level of baseball for him. And the structure of the deal, they're trying to put their core in place, and he's supposed to be a big part of what they're doing. And it's weird to see years like this on paper. We're going to see him sign through 2034. It buys out 3 free agent years for him. Backloaded salaries of $1 million to the $23 million range and a $14 million signing bonus. And he has some escalators, as I mentioned before, to get it up to $160 million with MVP, all MLB, All-Star, and Silver Slugger. So they're locking in this age 21 to 30 window, and his first shot of free agency at 27 is now gone. He'll have another shot if he's as good as we think he's going to be, but they're betting he's going to be the player that they think he's are, and he's going to be a superstar.
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually pretty long-winded, but I'm going to be super short on this one. You named all the statistics. He's proven he's a pro. He's a ball player's ball player. That's how he comes off when you listen to him talk, you watch him play. My word is pragmatic. It's good business. It's business-like decision. Get this done. There's no reason to hesitate. He's a big part of your future. I do wonder, like the money spent here, the big money spent on Fromber. Like, is there any money left for Tarek Skubal in the piggy bank, or is that it? But yeah, pragmatic as far as locking McGonigal up.
So let's speak about some pitchers here. You mentioned some of them by name, but let's get to the sub-2 ERA making its return back. And we don't have a nice little bumper for you yet, but we'll play the organ for it. All right, Devin, this is your segment. You always love talking about the sub-2 ERA, and we're jam-packed right now. Usually we get to a point of the season where we have none, so we're very much embracing the fact that we have a full boat right now.
Yeah, and this is fun because it's, again, if you're new to the show, you haven't tuned in the last couple of years, this segment usually lasts for a couple months of the season, and then there's nobody left, and we gotta get rid of it and wait till the next year. But sub-2 ERA crew, I feel like we need a good like a hip hop sub-2 ERA crew. We need to find someone to make us a little jingle here for this. I don't think they're gonna want to call it jingle, but I'm gonna call it a jingle for the sub-2 ERA crew. 10 members right now, a couple guys right on the periphery. But we'll start here. Jose Soriano leading the pack. I mentioned earlier in the episode tonight, 0.33 ERA. Pretty ridiculous. He's been unreal in the advanced statistics. Like, make it seem very, very real. Michael Wacha, 0.43. He's been excellent for the Kansas City Royals. Been around for seemingly a long time. It just seems like he's getting better each year, to be honest, as he gets older. Randy Vasquez, I know he's starting tonight, and they're probably a few innings into the game. But before tonight's start, he was at 1.02. So we'll see where that number is by the end of his start tonight. Drew Rasmussen, who I know gave your Yankees fits a couple days ago, 1.13 ERA. Great start for him in Tampa. Taj Bradley, formerly of the Rays, now of the Twins, the Hot Twins, 1.25. And it was honestly better than that. His last start was good, but not as great as some of the other ones he's been. He's a name to watch. I think everyone's rooting for him, for this to be real for him, because he was a high prospect, kind of didn't look the part for a little while, and looks like maybe he's found something in Minnesota. Jeffrey Springs, who I saw someone tweet out, like maybe the A's have found the ace that they need in Jeffrey Springs. And remember, this is not completely out of left field. Like a few years back on Tampa, he was an animal for, I want to say, like the first 10 starts of a season or something. He's one of the best pitchers in the league. And then he had some injury issues, and we haven't really seen him back to that level, but he might be getting back to that level. 1.46. Clay Holmes pitching tonight, and he did give up a 2-run home run in the second inning. The number for him before the game was 1.50. Obviously, that's going to be a little higher now. We'll see if he stays under 2 when the night's over. Seth Lugo also pitched tonight and pitched really well. He actually brought his ERA down to 1.48. Max Fried, 1.93. And rounding out the group, Eduardo Rodriguez, who did not have a very good start today, had his worst of the season. He was all the way down at like 0.50, like under 1. He still manages to stay under 2. He's at 1.96. And that's your crew right there. And what I like about it is, like, it's a little upside down. Some of the names you see here at the top, and if you look at some of the names at the bottom with the worst ERAs, it's feels like it's in reverse in some areas. There's a couple guys that look like they could be in this group soon if they have another good start. Christopher Sanchez at 2.01, so he just missed. Yoshinobu Yamamoto at 2.10. So we'll see if those guys can climb in. And I always like to watch, like, does the group get bigger? Is it going to get smaller? Out of those 10 dudes, give me the 2 that you like the best to stay here for a while.
Jose Soriano for sure. He looks like the best pitcher in baseball. And watching baseball for a long time, you can kind of tell when someone takes the next step. Yeah. Jose Soriano feels like he's taking the next step if you watch him pitch. I also like Jeffrey Springs, watching him up close and personal. And I think that he's someone that he had the Yankees no hit for quite some time at Yankee Stadium in that day game where they eventually lost 1-0. So he looks good. Health is going to be there. Little side caveat would be Seth Lugo. I like what I'm seeing from him, the veteran pitcher. Another health thing as well. I think the biggest question for Seth Lugo, will we see the fatigue mid-year where we saw the wheels fall off around the month of June last year for him? Can he be a pitcher that the Royals can lean on for the remainder of the year? But right now he looks good.
Yeah, nice for the Royals to have 2 guys in the sub-2 ERA crew. Like, that's a good sign. And they just hit the ball ever. They could be in decent shape, and Pacoda maybe is right about them winning that division with 83 wins. But yeah, Lugo, I'm a big Lugo fan, former Met, liked him here, wish we had kept him. Fantasy owner of him very frequently, not this year. Like, I was out on him, honestly. Like, as much as I like Lugo, I was completely out on him this year. Did not draft him in any of my leagues. Just felt like he was clearly in a decline phase. Love that he throws a million different types of pitches. Like, you can kind of get away with stuff when you do that. I just didn't like what I had seen for a while. Like, it seemed more like a trend than a blip. But he's looked good. Maybe he's found it again, and I hope, because I'm a Lugo fan there. But if I had to pick 2 guys, I agree with you with Soriano. I really think this is legit. I'm not saying he's going to be down at 0.33 all year, but I think he could stay in the sub-2 for a while. We've seen flashes from him before, and it just feels like this year he's putting it all together. And then the other, if I'm taking 2, I'll go with Max Fried, even though he's closer to that 2 mark than a lot of these other guys. I just feel like out of all the names on this list, he's like the most believable as far as what he's done in the past. Like, he has all that work under his belt.
So my other question before we move on to our red hot ice cold segment, you can't help but think about the conspiracy theory side of baseball a little bit with the different balls, and the Goldilocks ball always comes into play when you think about when baseball was at its peak of the juice ball era in 2017 and watching these home runs fly out. There's some circles of baseball media, and it's not out there vocally, that they believe that there are 3 different balls that Major League Baseball produces. And then when they want to increase offense, some of these balls are shipped out. And we saw in the last couple of days, home runs are all of a sudden flying out of the ballpark, where I think we were texting in our group, where is the offense? We can't find it. And all of a sudden it's arrived, where you have all these dudes, whether it's the Minnesota Twins, but all over the place, people are just bopping home runs out of the park. Anything to that with these balls? I know that someone has deconstructed them, taken them apart, looking at the insides of them, and they've been a little bit different. No one really can identify the uniqueness of why the ball's going out, but there is something to the 3 different balls that are being produced. Do you buy into that, or is that just tinfoil hat stuff?
I'll say this, and this is a general statement, not just baseball, but in the world. I, for a very long time in my life, was just so anti-conspiracy theory, would not buy into any of them, right? And I feel like the older I get, and the smaller the world feels because of the internet, and you just know more. I don't know, man. It's some conspiracy theories, like it's hard to turn a blind eye to, including this one, man.
Most of them have come true in the last couple
right.
years.
Right. Dude, there's some crazy, like, this is not gonna be a political table setters, but like just in the last few days, there's been some crazy stuff happening where we should probably look into that. But anyway, yes, I will say yes. I definitely think they mess with the balls and kind of use them in different ways. I don't think they're necessarily above that.
Are you saying Jesus Luzardo was a doctor? Is that what you're saying, Devin?
That is actually not what I was referring to be honest. I was referring to something else much more grim. But we won't get into it.
We'll call him Dr. Luzardo. He's wearing, whatever. I'm not going to go too far into it, but let's get into our red hot, ice cold and get into the rest of our show here. So we used to have the red hot, ice cold one. I think it got pulled off of YouTube because it was one of the shows. I think it was I Hate Chris, right? That was the show.
Everybody hates Chris. Yeah.
Yeah. So they got pulled. I think YouTube algorithm didn't like it. I don't know who owns the rights to that, but they were out to get us combing the internet. But red hot, ice cold is a segment we look at as some of the players that are just as it sounds, red hot and ice cold. And I'm going to start with a player that both of us had on our list, and it's Jeremiah Jackson. He's on a serious heater for the Baltimore Orioles, and look at what happened this past week makes it even more wild. The last 6 games from the 10th to the 15th month of April, 12 for 25, batting .480, 4 home runs, 12 RBIs, multiple 3-hit games on the 11th and the 13th, a 5 RBI game on the 13th. And for 2026 overall, he's batting .340, 18 for 53 in the small sample size so far, 4 home runs, 14 RBIs, 12 Ks, and he's not walking at all. But comparing that to last year, I mean, he only had 47 hits last year. He only had 21 RBIs. This is a dude who's well off to his pace. He's getting the playing time in Baltimore at this point. So the shift is he's at the ability. And the other story that I wanted to bake in here is him breaking his manager's jaw. And I'm sure maybe this got buried into the stories, but he wound up hitting a 70.6 mile per hour foul line drive that struck his manager, Craig Albernaz, right in his jaw. 7 facial fractures, a broken jaw, as I said. And he was in good spirits, though. He said, quote, "Ball hit me pretty flush, at least 7 fractures, then a broken jaw, no surgery, but a 6-week soft diet." And then the same game, Jeremiah Jackson hits a grand slam in the 6th, which sparked a 9-7 comeback win. And dude, we saw the hug after it. So baseball is amazing in ways like that, but crazy story. Glad he's okay, but 7 facial fractures. I'm not sure if that would be constituting being okay.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he said he's like, considering what happened, he's in good shape and he feels good, but tough as nails there. We've seen some coaches look real tough lately between that and Walt Weiss tackling.
Not to mention our boy Jim Martin got hit with a ball too, dude.
Yeah, Stony Brook coach. Yeah. That was nasty as well. So yeah, shout out to Jeremiah Jackson, though, other than almost killing his coach. He's been great. And again, like a name that it's not the first name or second name or third name you think of when you think about the Baltimore Orioles, but he's been absolutely killing it, and just shows you how much offensive talent they really do have. Like, they're deep. They still haven't really clicked offensively fully. I can't get past, like, on paper, that feels like it could be an offensive juggernaut at some point. Gunnar looks much better this year, right? Popping a bunch of home runs. We'll see. Do you want to give me your red hot? You have 2, right?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, but I'll speak a little bit more to him. Jeffrey Springs has been quietly one of the hottest arms. I mentioned his start against the Yankees, but for the A's, we saw his last outing against the Rangers. He went 6 1/3, only gave up 1 run, struck out 5, but he grinded through, and I think that's what a lot of people like from seeing from him. And he sits as right now for the season 3-0, a ERA, as we already mentioned, under 2, 1.46. The WHIP is under 1 as well, 0.77, and 2 earned runs or fewer in all 4 starts. That's what you want to see. He's controlling the game, controlling the pace, and limiting damage when he has base runners. So Jeffrey Springs, maybe he's not red torrid hot, but you like to see what you're seeing in the first 4 starts of the game, of the season, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, if the A's are going to be a legit contender, and I think a lot of people believe the offense has that ability, but like someone's going to have to step up on the pitching side, and looks like Springs could be that dude. So it's something to watch for sure. My red hot, I'm only going to give you one because I had Jeremiah Jackson as well. Brandon Lau, who I did mention earlier in the show when we were talking about managers getting too cute, especially with left-handed hitters. Well, this is why I was upset about that decision, that pinch hit decision yesterday. Brandon Lau this week, so just in the last 7 days, 6 for 19, 4 home runs, 11 RBI. 9th in the league overall for the whole season in RBIs with 15. So he has been well worth the investment from the Pirates and going to get him in the offseason. And I'll go right to my ice cold and I'll turn it over to you for yours before we wrap up here. 2 guys for my ice cold here, one from the pitching side, one from the hitting side. And I've kind of mentioned both in passing tonight. Garrett Crochet, I told you, if you look at the ERA list amongst qualified pitchers, if you turn it upside down, you'd be shocked who you saw. Garrett Crochet has the worst ERA of all qualified pitchers in Major League Baseball at 7.58. The expected ERA is lower, 5.35. So like it does show some bad luck, but like 5.35 ain't what you expect from Garrett Crochet either. It seems like he's having trouble with men on base. And the reason I say that, left on base percentage, 53.7%. He's having a lot of trouble stranding runners. That's an extremely low number. The 3rd worst in the bigs right now. For comparison, last year, full season, 84.3% left on base percentage. And you think about a high strikeout type of guy, those guys usually have an advantage of, not letting guys score once they're on base, because the strikeout is just that weapon that can keep those guys stuck there. But shocking so far what we've seen from Garrett Crochet, especially the 10-run night the other night against the Twins. But my other guy, Vinny Pasquantino, I mean, to be honest, you could kind of take your pick from the Royals. I could talk about Jack Caglione not being able to pop a home run, but Vinny Pasquantino is kind of surprising because he was so unbelievable for Team Italy in the WBC. You thought he was going to carry it over into the season. There's all the talk about the Royals moving in the fences, and the one guy that it was probably going to benefit more than anybody else is Pasquantino. Not so far. And again, maybe it's the whole weather thing if we want to throw that out there again, but he has not carried over the hot streak from the World Baseball Classic. Over the last 10 days, a minus 14 WRC plus, hitting just 118 in that time, no home runs. The Royals are struggling mightily offensively as a team with runners on base, not necessarily in scoring position, just runners on base at all for the season. The Royals as a team have a WRC plus of just 63. That's the 2nd worst. Slugging just 296 in that scenario. Runners on base, 2nd worst as well. So, and there's a lot of other, there's like 20 different ways to show you how much the Royals have struggled. And I think they're bound to get better. They do have some kind of proven players there. Caglione's an interesting scenario of like, is he a guy that's here for good no matter what, or could he get a cup of coffee back down in AAA once again? We'll see. But those are my 2 guys on the ice cold side.
Yeah, my ice cold is a guy who was red hot to start the season. One of the dudes that we are looking at as maybe you should pick him up, be a league winner in fantasy, and don't get too far ahead of yourself. Joey Wiemer, look at his stats in the last 6 games, 2 for his last 16, no home runs, no RBIs, no stolen bases, just 2 runs scored. And since April 5th, that first hot run we saw in the beginning of the year where they couldn't get him out, he was carrying the Nats offense, basically no production. Multiple 0 for games, April 5th, the 11th, and the 13th. We're seeing them start to lose some faith. We see limited playing time creeping in. And again, you look at the opening stretch from March 26th to April 1st, 3 hit games twice. He had 2 home runs, 4 RBIs. We're like, okay, maybe they're going to have a player here, but it shows you that you get a hot start, the pitchers adjust, and then the production disappears. So the contact has fallen off. There's no power. The count and stats aren't there. And right now he's just not getting on base, and we're going to see him start losing playing time. So Joey Wiemer, your time in the sun from that brief time in the moment, March 26th or April 1st, as a league winner in fantasy, goes away. But Joey Wiemer's ice cold. Not to bury on the dude. He had a nice little run that first week of the season.
You were hating on him in our fantasy chat as a guy. I think you didn't buy that one. Let's just say that you didn't buy.
No,
that
I did not. And like again, watching, he was hot. There's no doubt about it. And he had the 3 hit games twice. You're like, okay, there's something here. And I think we all get sort of lulled into maybe the siren song of looking at the top point getters in our points league, of seeing guys there and you see they're ranked for the year. He's top 10. You get excited about it. And you don't want to be the guy who leaves one of a player on the waiver wire.
Right.
Sal Stewart being one of them. I dropped him because I had him as an NA, and this dude's unreal. Hit three run home runs today alone.
Ridiculous.
And you don't want to be the guy left out of like this guy. Jordan Walker is the other situation where he's been on everyone's waiver wire for a long time, and he was picked up in our league and never to be dropped again. I think
I was this close. I couldn't figure out who to move, but Sal Stewart, Ellie De La Cruz combination is fun. And if Eugenio can start popping some out, like it's fun. Cincinnati, if you look at the stats as a team, not good offensively, but like Sal Stewart and Ellie are playing. They're playing their asses off right now.
Here's the Bobby Wood Jr. stat that you and I were referencing. I found the tweet. It actually was from known agitator Dan Clark on Twitter, so we're not co-signing him, but the stat is legit. It was co-signed by other people. Bobby Wood Jr. has reached base 30 times this year as of 2 days ago, and has been left stranded 29 times, good for 97%. So that just speaks everything you need to know. You mentioned Sal, you mentioned Vinny. These guys are not driving him in, and it's not Bobby Witt's fault, but you have to be able to capitalize when he gets on second, like to drive him in.
Yeah, that's a shitty number. Let's just put that out there. Breaking news here very quickly. Randy Vasquez, who I told you before, was starting tonight in the middle of a start. His start is over. He went 4 innings, allowed 4 runs on 5 hits, walked 4 guys, did strike out 6, but he falls out of the sub-2 ERA crew tonight, now at 2.49. It can happen that quickly, folks. So the crew has 9 guys as of now.
For sure. And the Padres looking for some pitching. Nick Pivetta with the sore elbow. He's hitting the IL, so we'll see what happens with him. Hopefully he doesn't need season-ending surgery. Yes, a problem for sure. But let's get to our next segment here, and it's going to be what we're looking forward to coming around third as we wrap up this episode. All right, so we are coming around third here for the end of the episode. Again, we appreciate you guys joining us and listening. Hopefully you guys enjoying some baseball. We appreciate you guys can follow us at Tablesetters Pod on IG and on Twitter. Again, give us some love on YouTube at Tablesetters Baseball. We mentioned before, it's WrestleMania weekend. Be having eyes on that for sure. But keeping our eyes on baseball, the thing I'm looking forward to, Devin, the big series coming up. You mentioned the series right now between the Padres and the Mariners and what we're seeing there. But the Mariners have a date with the Texas Rangers again this weekend, and all about momentum flipping, because if you look at the way the schedule has played out early in the season, the Rangers just swept Seattle last week. The Mariners immediately answered by sweeping Houston. And now we're going to have a conversation about who's actually for real. You look at Brandon Nimmo as kind of a key at bat in here. He's batting .367, extra base production of, you can hit for doubles, the triples and home runs. And I really like what he's doing with the Texas Rangers. So I think the storyline of this one going into this short point of the season as a checkpoint, was Seattle's turnaround legit, or did Texas expose something real the first time? So I'm watching that. And I'm also looking at the Tigers and the Red Sox, because you look at the frontline arms, you might have potential of getting Tarek Skubal against Garrett Crochet if it lines up correctly. And we also have the breakout. You want to look at Kevin McGonigal, how he responds to playing after he just got paid. Pretty cool to see. And it's going to be about Detroit's young core versus Boston's high-end pitching of Garrett Crochet. Can he respond? Can he be a guy that can lower that ERA in real time? He's going to need like 2 complete game shutouts or something to really get that ERA down from being so goddamn inflated.
And did you think of McGonigal? You think about some of the Red Sox young guys, Roman Anthony, obviously, Marcelo Mayer. Does anyone know what Christian Campbell's doing nowadays? He's still playing baseball.
He's in Worcester, right? He's just hanging out in Worcester.
Yeah, and I'm being facetious. Like, yeah, he's still with the Red Sox. It's just crazy.
He's at the White Eagle. He's at the wrestling venue I go at, the White Eagle, watching some wrestling open.
It's just nuts. Like, didn't they gave him an extension, right? They gave him like an 8-year thing. It's wild how quickly that fell off, and we'll see if he can climb his way back. But I saw a recent clip, and the swing just looked not good. That's not. I don't know. Maybe he's always had a little bit of a funky swing, but it was eye-opening to me. Anyway, getting off track here. So coming around third, one thing I'm looking forward to, I think the Rays Pirates series is interesting. Obviously, you got the Brandon Lau thing, the connection there, but it's in Pittsburgh, so it's not like he's going back to Tampa. He'll do that at some point. But it's more so how these two teams are playing. I think both of them most people would tell you they're playing a little over their head. I think if you had to vote between the two, more people would probably say the Pirates are legit than the Rays. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I mean, you got the Rays at 10-7, the Pirates at 11-7, hanging around the top of their divisions. So I think that's a big series for both of those teams, like teams that maybe are sometimes in a little bit of an afterthought for certain baseball fans. That could be a fun one there. Both teams trying to prove that what they're doing is not a fluke. And the other one that stands out is Orioles Guardians, partly because they're both hovering around 500. And when we did our bracket or playoff bracket prediction for postseason, I said that I think the Orioles are going to sneak in as the last wild card team, partly because I think they're just barely going to beat out the Guardians and the Red Sox. I think those three teams will be in the mix for the last wild card spot, and I think the Orioles will take it. So this is an early matchup between those two teams that maybe later in the season ends up being a bigger deal than we thought about at the time.
Absolutely. And just for the record, with these recent prospect extensions, I looked up some of the numbers. Christian Campbell only had 5 Major League Baseball games played, 8 years, $60 million extension with the Boston Red Sox. And that full list now, we mentioned Kevin McGonigal, 8 years, 150 after 17 MLB games. Connor Griffin, of course, we've discussed, 9 years, 140 after 5 games. Colt Emerson, no games played at the Major League level, 8 years, 95. Cooper Pratt with the Milwaukee Brewers, 51 mil for 8 years. I'm not sure if we discussed it here on the show. And then Samuel Basallo with the Baltimore Orioles, 4 games played, 8 years, $67 million. So put you on the spot here. You got to pick one of these deals aging the best on the scale of John Singleton and name the best deal for a young player remains to be seen. Which one hits? Are you looking at Griffin, McGonigal, or will it be one of the guys like Emerson where you're getting quite the deal for 8 years, $95 million if he winds up being a superstar?
Man, I'll still take the chalk and take Griffin. I mean, a 19-year-old, I think overall you're going to see that guy as a superstar. And I'm not saying maybe you look at that eventually and think like, oh my God, he's being so underpaid, like to the Ronald Acuna extent. But I mean, maybe by the second half of that, you're like, holy crap, like he's being underpaid right now for what he's doing. So I know it's maybe a boring answer, but I'll take the chalk there. And by the way, Red Sox fans, like there's another kid coming up, Franklin Arias, who is absolutely destroying the ball in his first taste of Double-A. He's a guy to watch for not just Red Sox fans. Everyone should keep an eye on that name. That he's might start moving quickly through that system.
For sure. And again, we want to reiterate, we thank you guys for supporting our show. As always, follow us on all the social media platforms. As I mentioned, if you're so kind, please leave a 5-star review. We'll be back sometime talking baseball next week, of course. So, Devin, any final parting words? I know you were on the Twitter machine over there, a lot of conversation. And maybe talk a little bit about that daily reel you're posting with some expectations and some numbers that people are really digging into.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You and I always say you never know what's going to catch people's attention, and then sometimes you think you have great stuff you're putting up there that barely gets a look. But we've done one thing that has become a daily thing now that we will be posting throughout the entire season. And to be honest, like it kind of started last year in the postseason. Every day I would try to break down each matchup and put some of the notable stats of matchups of how guys have done against certain pitchers and things like that for the postseason games. And this year, what I've started to do, I'm not sure if I started right on opening day or if it took me a few days, but I know I started sometime in March. With every day, I'm posting what I'm calling MLB most notables and going through on Baseball Savant, the player matchups page, looking at basically how guys on a team have done in their careers against the pitcher they're going up against that day, and kind of not cherry picking, but combing through to, again, what I feel like are the most notable. So like, listen, if a dude is 1 for 4 with a home run against this guy is facing, to me, that's not most notable. Now, I'm not ignoring all small sample sizes. Like if a dude is 3 for 3 with a double and 2 home runs, I consider that pretty damn notable. Right. But I'm trying to, not just go through every little thing. It's not going to be every guy that has a home run against the pitcher. If he's 1 for 5 with a home run and 4 strikeouts, again, I don't consider that something to keep your eyes on. But if that's something you're interested in, I mean, I know people like making little prop bets. We've definitely got some attention from those type of people on Twitter and Instagram. Or if you're just kind of like to be in the know, maybe it's more of a fantasy thing and trying to decide who you're going to start on a certain day. It could be helpful in that way. So check it out if you're interested. Repost it if you'd like to help us out. And by the way, we haven't gotten a new review in a little while. So if anyone's feeling like in a good mood and you want to help us out, go leave us a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you want. Always helps us out.
Yeah, the weather's warmer now. Maybe everyone's feeling good right now, and all around my neighborhood, the cherry blossoms. There have a lot of cherry blossom trees everywhere. I'm not sure if it's the same near you. Just overnight, just popped out all of a sudden.
Yeah, we
they're
have
everywhere.
a few. We have a few around here. Lots of shit blowing all over. As somebody with spring allergies, like I love spring, but I cannot forget to take the Allegra before I leave the house if it's like a high pollen day. Maybe I'm old. I don't know.
No, I hear you. I honestly, it affects me differently every year, and so far it's been okay.
Same.
But we'll see how it goes. I'm a proud supporter of Zyrtec for right now. Like you said, you take the Allegra, but I do switch between both of them over the course of like a couple years when I need it because they become a little bit less potent. But that's a whole other story. We do appreciate you guys. Right now, the Mets are still playing right now. We'll see if Devin's guys can get off the mat. We'll see if Edwin Diaz comes out of the pen. A lot of stories to watch, guys. But you guys, again, thank you for supporting us. We'll be back next week talking all things baseball. And as always, talk to you after a while. Happy baseball.
In a year that has been so